Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the number one college podcast in the world right now, Barry and Vilv. My name is Barry.
This is Vilv, and guys, welcome back to episode 13. We've been very consistent. Now, except for a couple of weeks, we've tried to bring the content. Different time zones is very difficult, guys. Please bear with us. But today we have a very special guest on with us, who we will introduce in a second. But before we do that, Barry, do you just want to give us a rundown of last week and what we discussed?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Vilv. But before I do that, hey, as Vilv just mentioned, we are both still in the winter break. We are still at our parents' homes. Vilv is still back home with his family in Bangladesh, leaving me here by myself in Atlanta with my family. But it's all good because I'll see you next week, hopefully, inshallah.
Inshallah, man.
No, for sure. And because of that, yes, we are doing this episode on Zoom, so please bear with us. But yeah, Bill, let's talk about last week, man. For those of you who missed it, last week we had a very special guest. It was my cousin who was studying computer science at Stanford University, and we spoke about like all of his accomplishments, his background, and how he was able to earn a full ride scholarship to Stanford. So if you missed that, definitely go check it out. A lot of great gems and a lot of things shared in that video. So definitely go check it out. Now, without further ado, Bill, I know this episode we have another special guest, especially from what you've told me so far. I've been so eager to meet him, but I'll let you do the introduction.
Yeah, I mean, this week we have another CS scholar here for you guys. This isn't a CS channel, but we just happen to know a lot of CS people. So yeah, this is a guy I've known for over a decade now, probably. He's my brother from another mother. We've had our differences lately, but you know, you always try to patch things up with people, and I've always had a huge admiration and respect for this man. He is the one and only Deepak Prothoy from the University of Michigan. I think he's based in Bangladesh right now, but Deepak, take it away, man.
Thank you so much, Vari and Dinyar, for inviting me over. I think I have been the first subscriber of your YouTube channel just because I really love supporting my friends during their initial ventures because you never know when everything pops up. So I really hope uh, like this podcast becomes the number one podcast in the world, not just college podcast, so that you can get rid of that college word when you give your intros. It's gonna happen one day for sure. I pray for that. But yeah, thank you so much for the invite. It's really humbling. I am a very nocturnal creature, and Dinyar knows that waking up at 9 a.m. is not my jam. But it feels good, honestly. Waking up in the mornings, having a cup of coffee, and talking to two geniuses from Georgia Tech, it feels good. So thank you for the invite.
Now, Bill, I don't know what he means by two geniuses, but hey, I guess I'm gonna include myself in them.
Yeah, yeah. In a half an hour, we're gonna find out who the real genius is, right? So, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, absolutely, man. Love to have you on. It was great meeting you again for after like 3 years or something, which is a long
Definitely.
time. But we went to high school, middle school together, so amazing. But without further ado, Deepro, let's get into it. So, you study computer science in University of Michigan. You're going to graduate, I believe, in like 5, 6 months. So just tell the viewers, University of Michigan is one of the top schools in the country, one of the top schools for computer science in the country. How's your experience been so far? Academically, what have you been involved in the University of Michigan?
Awesome, awesome. That's like a very interesting question. I'd like to break it down. So when I was in high school, I realized that academics is definitely important, but no one is gonna remember you vividly just because you had the best grades, right? So you needed to have something. It doesn't have to be extracurriculars, but it's just your personality or anything outside academics that makes you flourish. I know a lot of people who were academically extremely strong, but they did not have that persona that existed within the teachers or the friends. So I really wanted to spend my time in University of Michigan as an individual so that I can leave a mark after I graduate and not be the person who just takes a diploma and graduates, right? So ever since the first day, I ensured that I really enjoyed this experience. I know that there is a little bit of privilege that comes when it comes to studying in one of the top universities. Majority of our nation in Bangladesh are not able to do that. So I could have graduated with a computer science degree from my country, right? So what is the difference that I could do in a foreign land? And that's when I realized that I'll basically take part in as many extracurriculars as possible, have as much as leadership positions as possible. And let's be honest, everyone has a CS degree right now. So we have to have that, that differentiating factor when it comes to uh, doing the things that makes you separate from other people. We can talk a little bit more in details if you guys want about some of the ventures that I did. But in short, I had a lot of leadership ventures in the Bangladeshi Student Association. I have been running my company for the last 2.5 years. It has been going very good. And apart from that, I had a couple of other club experiences. For example, I led the Security Council of my Model UN conference last year and some other ventures here and there. So just a small sneak peek.
Yeah,
Wow.
no, that's really impressive. Impressive. I just noticed how you just left out GPA. I think everybody knows that's a 4.0, so it's fine. We don't really need to mention that. But no, I'm just kidding.
So, Vilv, I actually want to jump in here real quick and ask. So Diplo, so you mentioned that yes, academics are good, but that's not the only thing you need to stand out. And I freaking love that statement because I'm more so the guy who's not so much good on the academics, but I do make up for it on the other side of things. So, am I still good, or do I have to bring up the academics too?
That's a very valid question. And let me tell you this, all right?
Mm,
Georgia Tech and University of Michigan are great schools, right? Um, they're not better in the eyes of recruiters than Harvard, Stanford, or MIT, right? We can all agree upon that, right? So
right.
during this recession, when I saw that a Harvard bachelor's who had his master's from MIT and his PhD from Stanford University was kicked out of Facebook just like they were a piece of crap. That made me realize, and let me tell you this,
Wow.
that person's GPA was a 4.0 throughout undergrad, throughout masters, and in PhD you don't have a GPA, but he finished his PhD from Stanford University. He worked for almost 2 and 3 years in Facebook, Meta, but during the recession, he was one of those first people to get kicked out of the company. And we do know that the people who got kicked out were the ones who were like the underperformers of the company according to the company's eyes. So that kind of gave me a realization that even if you are at the top of your academic peak, it doesn't matter where you're graduating from. If you don't have the skills to thrive in a competitive environment, the skills, the GPA would not help you, because at the end of the day, I have gotten a GPA 4 in one of my semesters. I know how it feels. All you have to do is study, be consistent, and execute the things which are already been discovered. There's nothing new that you're doing, right?
Mm.
So when I think about all these things, I feel good that I don't have a 4.0. You know what I mean?
Wow. Listen, man, we are starting the year 2023 off right. This is the best advice, Bill, if anybody has ever told me. Hands down, you know what? I think I'm dropping out today. That's
It's
all I
all.
needed
It's
to
all.
hear, Bill. That's all I needed to hear.
You
Hands
finally.
down.
That's the final motivation you needed, right?
That's
That's the
that's the
final
final
motive.
motivation I needed, bro.
Yeah,
but
No,
yeah,
but
but
yeah.
in fact,
yeah,
I think if you rephrase it, I would say that college degrees are not scam, but college GPAs are scams. So we can play
mm,
this line a lot
I think
because
that's
this is
very valid. No, yeah,
very valid.
I absolutely agree with that statement. Of course, you learn stuff in college. So the people who say that you don't learn anything in college is not true. Like you actually do learn stuff that's not on YouTube. That's false. That everything's on YouTube and everything's accessible. There are stuff that you learn in college that you don't learn using online platforms or YouTube like that. And
mm,
but you are right in the sense that I think the GPA is definitely an exaggeration in many ways of
mm.
what a person is capable of, and in many ways, the exaggeration is like a false exaggeration. And like you said, these people sometimes get exposed when they're in the real world. And we can also come into the finances of college, and I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of strong things to say about that. Why is it so expensive, etc.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. But it's interesting that you mentioned your CS journey that way, because a lot of people will go into details about what they've done about the courses and stuff like that, and what they're trying to focus on. I guess I'll ask you that question: is that academically, what is your focus when it comes to your degree? Like, do you have a certain thing you're trying to shoot towards, or?
I think the reason I did not say that in the more traditional way is because I knew that the other people would say this in a traditional way, saying that I've taken
Yeah.
data structure and algorithm courses in my second semester, and I have properly executed all the all the searches and blah 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 algorithms. But
Right.
I'll be honest with you, I've realized that a lot of people misinterpret computer science as just software engineers. CS is a very vast field. You can be an artificial intelligence engineer to ML engineer to product managers. And I think I personally consider myself more of a tech manager. I've done 3 internships so far in my college life. All 3 were product management. And I believe the reason why I felt this was my field is because I personally feel that software engineers have very little say in the creation of a product. Let's say you're making this phone and you're working in a very small root level of that phone. Let's say you are given the responsibility to solve a small bug in the camera of this phone. So that's a very small niche. And in order for you to see your work in the company, it's going to take decades, right? It's going to take decades for you to come to a very leadership position where you're actually creating things which are visible. Unlike that, I felt like a product manager has managers have the direct say what a product will be like, what features you want a product to have, and so on. So I think the intersection of tech and design is where I thrive, and this is the place where I can execute a lot of my leadership skills, unlike, let's say, coding day and night and debugging day and night.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
very profound right there, Bill. But I have to admit, man, I've been hearing a lot of technical terms, man. It's making my brain hurt just a little bit, man.
Uh,
No, I'm just playing around, man. But so going back earlier in the introduction, Vilv mentioned that you're part of like a lot of ventures. You've done a couple in the past, and if I'm not mistaken, you and him pursued like a joint venture back home in Bangladesh. And like you stated, you are involved in many different clubs and activities. You know, your university. I just want to ask, like, how are you able to like manage everything as a student? Because that's something that I've always aspired to be. I always wanted to be like a multifaceted individual, being involved in different things. I just want to learn from you and kind of like get to know your perspective. How do you manage everything, like all of your outside ventures, as well as being a student?
That's a very great question, and I would rephrase it this way, right? So I always ask people who don't do this stuff that how do you manage only doing academics? Does that make
Mm,
sense?
mm,
Because in my eyes, let's say you are creating a dish, and for me, a dish needs to have the perfect level of spice as well as salt, as well as all the seasoning, right?
right.
And if you consider my life as a dish, without all these elements, the dish won't be perfect.
Mm,
So I find the perfect balance between when should I stop focusing on too much academics and when should I start working on other ventures? We are given 24 hours by Almighty every single day. And I'm pretty sure that most of us, or if not us, but like most of the high school students waste like almost half of them.
mm,
Majority of their time goes into running around coaching centers in Bangladesh. We barely paid any attention in school, let's be honest, for the last 2.5 years. But I don't think Dunia remembers or not. What I used to do is I used to sit in the back with a pen and paper, and I used to make small notes on, let's say, what campaigns would we do next. So back at during that time, I think I started this youth organization called RYC Bangladesh. It later turned into RYC Global, and in short, it was basically a non-profit organization where we used to collect funds and help a lot of people in need. The first funding we ever received was from Diniyar's father, so he really helped us, uh, a major fund. So he really helped us do that venture back in the time. Um, and nobody knows that because it was completely anonymous because most of our donors really wish to remain anonymous, which is again a great deal about some big names of our country. So overall, we really were able to execute a lot of um, a lot of fun projects. But it was during a time that I realized that I had the power, or I had the ability to convince a lot of my juniors to have that impact on people. But the unfortunate thing was I was not generating any revenue. And I realized that the word entrepreneur although it seemed a lot fancy to me, but I wasn't into it directly. I was a social worker, I was a youth activist, but I was not an entrepreneur, right? I kept on asking myself, what separates a youth activist from an entrepreneur? Both are fighting for a problem, right? But an activist doesn't make any money. An entrepreneur makes money, right? And that's when I slowly shifted from. So there was a very small time when RYC Global and my startup DP Tutorials were working together, but then slowly RYC shut down and DP Tutorials started working in full swing. And that was the transition of my youth activist to entrepreneurship journey. And it has been going good so far.
I can just I was like I got front seat to all these activities, and ROC was definitely like a dream project for a lot of us. And don't get me wrong, I mean I think we all, even though we weren't generating any revenue, we definitely made the memories and it made impact that you just can't put like a price tag on. So that's definitely something I don't regret. But I think what's interesting here is you're mentioning that about the dish metaphor. Going back to it, it's kind of like you asking people like, are you just happy eating rice versus having a full course meal? With some
Mm.
rice and some chicken and some, I don't know, whatever, etc. Right, with some sides, nice dish versus just having a bland plate of whatever. So yeah, that definitely to me resonates a lot as well, and I try to do that. And I think the revenue part is interesting that you mentioned about the making the money part, because um, right now I think around the world we have so many people that are trying to push ideas about making money and hustling and this and that. What I think you know what I'm talking about, especially on social media. They're all doing some venture or the other. So do you have any opinion on those kind of things, or like how do you try to separate yourself from those kind of personalities? I would say, because they generally get a lot of negative attention on social media.
Mm. So I don't have a opinion. I have a lot of opinions, and I'm pretty sure that we can create like a 10-hour podcast on this alone because there's a lot of things we can definitely talk into this side. But in my opinion, I feel like I've seen this for a lot of people, that people who are actually making money, who are actually um in profit, who are actually um earning those hard-earned money, don't talk about it. And on the other hand, a lot of people who don't have a very um, clear line of income always talk about it. So
That's
definitely
interesting.
I'm putting those people as exceptions who actually talk about finances regularly. There are some great finance YouTubers who definitely give us a lot of insights. There's a great YouTuber, Ali Abdal, who literally breaks down every income that he has, saying as a doctor I earned this much, as my book selling business I made this much. But then he shows the legitimate proof as screenshots, that he basically opens his bank account and shows like, this is the number that I generated from this month. So those are like very valid things, and those actually inspire you because you know that those are valid. But when I say, hey, I woke up today and I realized that my 5 figures became 7 figures, those are the things that I don't trust. And there's a
Yeah,
lot of out there, trust me. With some fancy words out on the internet, the metaverse, the Web3, crypto, and Bitcoin.
yeah. Everybody's getting like seed funding in the hundreds of thousands and millions, and this
Yeah,
really paints a
see,
false image, I think, of like there's like money everywhere to be gotten, but that's really not true. Like a very fraction of startups or companies actually get seed funding like that. Right? That's just the reality of it. Even in the U.S., I'm not just talking about in like developing nations or something like that. Even in the U.S., which is the biggest startup hub of any of a country that
oh yeah,
anybody
100%,
ever
any
has, even there, very little startup actually get money from like venture capitals or angel investors. I think Barry, you can speak about this as well. Having your own own go as well. So your story is that's the reason. Like I said, people know your story legit as well. You've documented all your story, like from selling this to your high school schoolmates to actually now having a proper fashion brand that's recognized by thousands of people. That's a big jump to make in not a lot of time, but that's what a successful business does, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, no, no, absolutely. And it's just so crazy that like what you and Dipro was referring to, like you're right, there are a lot of these marketing gurus out there, that always claim all this kinds of stuff, just to lure potential customers in. But to be honest, like you all said, a lot of it is not really legit. All right. Which is sad to see, like I like what Dipro here is doing. I want to try. So let's talk about your venture. So you said you were doing, what is it called? DPC tutorials, you said?
So my initials are DNP, right? So it's
Oh,
DP
DM.
and tutorials. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So DP tutorial. So kind of like, so talk to us more about that venture. What exactly is that? And did you start it in Bangladesh or did you start it here in the States?
That's a very valid point. I think when I started it off, it did not quite have a name. I soon
Hmm.
realized that what I'm doing can definitely have a name, and that's when I named it DP Tutorials later on. So I think my first student was um during August 2019, right after. I think no, I think it's August 2020. Apologies. So I think August 2020 when my undergrad started officially as a remote student. That's when it started off. Before that, I used to teach a couple of students during the break, but I soon realized that there was a really bad need for SAT
Hmm.
teachers in the industry. When I gave my first exam, I think I got a 1430, which is not that great.
Not
But
that great.
I
Bill,
mean, yeah.
hey Bill,
Yeah, I knew that. I knew
hey
this
Bill, you want to
reaction
tell
was
him how
gonna
much
come.
I had, man?
No, no,
I
go
didn't
ahead,
even
man.
get to the thousands, man. I had less
Oh
than a
my
thousand,
god,
man.
Yeah,
man, you should have gone to DP
eventually,
tutorials. Man.
Hey,
You missed
I
out.
should have, man.
yeah, but I ended up taking the SAT. So Dinyar knows that I took the SAT 2 times, but I ended up taking the SAT 4 times because the last 2 times were so that I can improve my score and have a very crazy number so that the students get attracted. But I still could not ace the reading part, unfortunately. The reading part still gets me. I ended up getting a 400 out of 400 on the writing segment as well, but the reading, oh my God, it really takes a lot of courage. But I'm taking the SAT one more time in 4 months because the SAT is changing the syllabus. They're completely changing the SAT into a remote exam. So you can take it from your own laptop. It's a digital exam right now. And me as a teacher, I really have to ensure that I take the exam first before giving all the marketing guru knowledge to my students, right? So
Exactly.
there's definitely that. So as far as what DP tutorials is, it for now I call it I don't even call it a startup too much because startup is a very overrated word nowadays. I would say that it's an ed tech consultancy that helps a lot of students in South Asia get into their desired universities around the world. We mainly target a lot of lower income people. Our revenue works in this way, right? So normally, if you want to study SAT to a private tutor in Bangladesh, you're gonna spend around $200 for the entire course, right? We charge around $10 to $15 per month, and that's it. And that goes for around 2 to 3 months. Plus, if someone comes from a very needed family and they tell me that I cannot afford the $10, I can afford $5. I give them the course for $5. You cannot find a single person who can tell that I asked for financial aid from Dipro, but he never gave me. Because at the end of the day, compared to the US market, the amount that I generate from Bangladesh is not enough eventually. So I'm not doing this for money, at least at this point, right? My current target is to help um, everyone in Bangladesh and Nepal. We mainly function in two countries right now. So know about these concepts like SAT, right? Because everyone fights so bad to get into some public colleges in the nation in Bangladesh. But in my experience and a lot of students, what they told me, getting into the US is much easier than getting into one of the top public universities in Bangladesh, given the amount of competition you have, right? Because a very small example, Harvard accepts 40,000 applicants every year approx, and they take in 2,000 people, right? So the acceptance rate is around 5-6% approx. In Bangladesh, if you want to get into the best medical school of the country, which is Dhaka Medical University, Dhaka Medical College, there are 200 seats, almost I think 200 300,000 people apply. So
Yeah, it's
if you,
less than like 1%. I think like
it's less than
0.1%.
1%, right? It's
Stupid
less than
like that.
0.1%,
Yeah.
right? So kind of shows that if people actually have the knowledge, they can definitely create those impacts. So I think for the last 2.5 years, I have taught SAT to over 500 students so far. And we also have our course which we recently launched. So I realized that I'm taking a lot of online classes. So we really needed an ed tech offline platform where people can just buy our course and watch all the videos from how to write an essay to how to apply for your US visa. So everything in details. So different types of ventures going on. We check a lot of essays. We do a lot of college mentorships and so on. Uh, we are a team of 26 people right now. All have their own work doing in different fields, and yep, going quite good so far.
I definitely appreciate the financial aid, man. You've already beaten the colleges in that respect. You know, uh, this is really like admirable because I think that region, as well as like Africa, you'll know this is very neglected in many ways. Right? There's so much talent in that region. I can speak for
Oh,
myself.
crazy.
You know, my country has so much talent. Like it's a shame the amount of talent that goes wasted because simply because they can't afford it. They can't afford education in like the US or Canada or like the UK, whatever, the top universities. And like Deeper said, a lot of our schools in our country just don't have enough seats for like the top schools just don't have enough seats for the amount of talent we actually produce. The talent pool is too large and the pipe is too small. You know what I mean? In many ways. So we
Yeah.
just actually optimize very little of what we have. So I think that's really, really good. Maybe if you want to branch out to Africa, Barry's your guy. You guys could probably work on that. But that's really interesting that you mentioned. So, what is your like goal? I would say out of college, like you say that the business, it's going well, but it's maybe not generating as much money right now as you would probably want it to in the long run. Do you see this as being a long-term business of yours, or do you see this as more of a philanthropic activity, something like Khan Academy or something like that, or like outside of college, what are you after college? What do you want to pursue with it? Like, what's your overall goal with this project?
So I take things very realistic, right? So I really have a very realistic approach given my geographical background, given my visa status and everything. So let me share a very interesting funding story. So there was a time where I literally binge watched Shark Tank India. So Shark Tank came to India, and the episodes are really funny and interesting more than the US. So I ended up watching almost 200 300 episodes of Shark Tank, and that was probably the most life-changing phase of my life because I realized I'm watching so many weird things on Netflix. Let me watch something that's actually interesting, engaging, and gives me a lot of good knowledge on stuff, right? So after almost 5 or 6 months of actually understanding the startup business, I cold mailed some recruiters. Apologies, I cold mailed some angel investors who are University of Michigan graduates. So if you go to LinkedIn, if you go to people and if you search investors, all the investors names pop up, right? So I kind of email like 20 30 of them. One of them actually gave me an offer, and there were a lot of issues with it. So I can share the offer publicly. So the offer was $100,000 for 10% of my company, so which stands at around the evaluation goes to $1 million. So he gave my company a $1 million uh what do you call it, evaluation, right? But there were a lot of
Evaluation.
issues with that, right? If this offer was given to any other person out there, they would have 100% accepted that. But if I accepted the offer, had I accepted the offer, I would have been deported from the US for a lot of different reasons. So the first thing is a lot of people don't realize that you are unable to have a startup on your own in the US, which is not directly related to your major, right? Now, I can portray this as an ed tech startup and tech directly goes to computer science as a major. I could do all those things, but I realized that I don't need the funding, right? A lot of people run run for money, but I realized that for me right now, I don't need the money. I don't need to create an evaluation just for the sake of it. What I could be doing is I could work on user acquisition as much as I can. And later on, when I really needed the money, I could do it all over again, right? Because I realized that in the US, as Dinyar said, everyone is waiting to invest upon you if you are legit and if you're good enough. So I never had the issue with funding. And I think University of Michigan is ranked as one of the I think we are ranked as one of the top 5 schools that creates the most entrepreneurs. Number one is Harvard. Number two, three, four were something else. And number five was University of Michigan. So a lot of entrepreneurs come out of UMich. A very popular one is the Morning Brew, which was created by some UMich alumni. He's just 26 years old. He created a newsletter, and now he is worth $160 million. So we take a lot of advices from him. He takes a lot of classes at U of M online. So yeah, I think as for my plan, I really want to work in the US for a couple of years because let's be honest, I'm not bestowed upon with some great financial funding from my family. My parents are already doing their hard work to ensure that I can finish my bachelor's and master's without taking any college loan possible. But after I graduate, I plan on at least working for 2, 3 years. I already have a guaranteed offer from a startup who approached me as to become a full-time associate product manager, but it's not too much of a money. I would say, am I able to share? I would say they were giving me around $50,000 to $60,000 per year, right? Being very honest. But I know that this number would increase because the company is raising their pre-seed funding. In like 2, 3 months. And I soon realized that if I really want my startup to grow, I really needed to have that green card. I don't want the green card because I really want to be a US citizen or something like that, which a lot of people want. They want to settle in the US, leave their country. But my valid reason is if I really want to create a global business, I really need to have a very secured immigration status. With our F1 visa status, things are super complicated. You cannot even work off campus, right? So imagine running $1 million company. It's not going to work out. So my current target is to finish my undergrad, finish my master's, get into a very good place as a full-time product manager, work there for 2, 3 years, get my green card, and on the side, for these 3, 4 years, get as many users as possible so that the day when I decide that I will raise funding, I will already have 100,000 students under my brand name. So then hopefully my evaluation of my company would not be 1 million, it would be 10 million, right? So things are possible. So currently working on that.
Wow.
Got you.
I just want to jump in here and ask, Dipro, by any chance, are you minoring in business or because man, you are very well versed in this field, man.
I'll be honest with you, all right? I don't want to say this out loud, but this is just a personal feeling. I took a couple of business courses in University of Michigan, and I realized that business is not something you learn. Business is something that you do. You directly jump into the business. You fail miserably. You understand where you failed. You get back to the pipe and fix it as you move forward, right? So the only reason I'm doing my master's in business, I keep telling my parents that master's is not going to help me up at all knowing things because I've known enough for the last 3 years by reading as much as I can, by watching a lot of podcasts. But what a business degree does, it connects you with the right mindset of people. It connects you with the crazy connections, right? If people tell me that I learned a lot from business career, I know that they're faking because a good business school has very little course. I know that it's similar for Georgia Tech because I researched a lot. It's a lot of engagement. The difference between CS classes and business classes is CS classes are more lecture based. Business classes are more execution based. So it depends on you as an individual if you can actually understand how a business class works and take the best utilization of it. So yep, hoping to do my master's in a couple of months and we'll see what happens.
Hey, Diplo, that's why I like you, man. But I want to go back to a comment earlier, just real quick, as like a side comment. Going back to DP tutorials, man. I have to say, hands down, you are the best financial aid department I've ever heard of. You should come work at Georgia Tech here because the financial aid system here, yeah, let's just say it's not the best, right? So yeah, we need. I need you here, right? You're the only.
I wish Barry. I wish I could just go to the office and be like, "Hey, man, I can't afford the tuition this year," and they'll be like, "Yeah, sure." How much can you afford?
It's not that easy, trust me. So the thing is, we are not Georgia Tech. We don't charge people so much money in the first place. So we charge people 1/10 of what the other places charge them, right? And once we do that, automatically a lot of people feel that gratefulness. Someone is trying to create a change by selling courses for just 1,000, 2,000 taka, which is like 10 or $20, whereas people are doing it for over $250, $300, right? So automatically that reduces. But you'll be shocked, Barry, when I say this, because Vilv already knows this, that in Bangladesh, earning around $10,000 per year is a crazy privilege. It's a crazy privilege to earn $10,000 per year. The average salary of a computer science graduate in Bangladesh is 25,000 taka, which is $250 a month, around $4,000 a year, right? So exactly, this is the business. So how do you expect even the son of an engineer to afford these universities? I'll share with you my top 3 success stories of DP tutorials, right? Are you familiar with the term EFC, estimated family contribution? It's required when you fill up. Oh yeah, it's a financial aid term, right? How much can your family afford per year? So one of my students had an EFC of $2,500 per year, and she got into one of the best colleges of the West. It's called Claremont McKenna. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a liberal arts college, one of the top 10 in the world. She got a financial aid of $76,000 per year. So that was my first success story. The second success story is in University of Rochester. A student of mine, he's working in DP tutorials as a peer mentor right now. He had an EFC of $5,000. He got into University of Rochester, which has one of the best physics program, and he's now a physics major, and he got almost $68,000 of financial aid. And lastly, I corrected the essay of someone. So that person did not take too much help from me, but I helped shape the personal essay to make it a little bit better. And now he's studying in Cornell University. So I really wanted an Ivy League acceptance because I personally never had one. And plus, Ivy Leagues are not like my jam, but I still wanted some Ivy League acceptances. And last year we had 2. So we had one in Cornell and we had one in Columbia. So that's when I realized that what I'm doing is actually creating impact. What I'm doing is actually helping out people. And the EFCs of people can be as low as $1,000. I never had that mentality that even people like those exist. In English medium school, we were living in a bubble, right? And my electricity went off. But yeah, we were living in a bubble, and soon as I got out of that bubble, yeah, I really wanted to help people out who were not that privileged enough. And I think the average EFC of people that I teach is less than $5,000 like per year. So that's what I'm working with. So there's a lot of educational gap which I'm trying to fill. First, I even have to convince parents that why US is good for you, because there's some very bad trauma that if you go to the US, you'll start drinking, girls will become prostitutes. There's some very crazy things that exist in the minds of a lot of conservative people of Bangladesh.
It's a very because Bangladesh is a very, I mean, conservative society. So it's just, they have a lot of traditional values, there are a lot of somewhat conservative values. So they just don't, especially towards, I guess, women education, but in general as well. Just they just a lot of families, even our friends, right? People like we have friends that
Our friends too,
have
yeah.
parents that have mentalities like this, and I'm like, well, that's not really true. And well, one, it's not really true. Secondly, if a person really doesn't want to stray, let's say, quote unquote, stay on the straight path, he can go derailed anywhere. I don't think that they need the U.S. to derail them. I mean,
They can
I
even get
think
well in their own
Bangladesh
city.
right now,
Yeah.
yeah, I think Bangladesh right now is like fast enough. I think a lot of African countries, I'm pretty sure, very, like I know I have like I have a Nigerian friend who was the other day telling me like it's very fast right now. Like the country is developing so fast, so
Oh,
they're
yeah.
adopting a lot of Western culture. The Middle East right now, very, Saudi. I go to Dubai. I've been to Dubai a couple times. Bro, it's so fast. Like you would expect those countries to be a little bit more conservative. So it's like it doesn't really matter where you are. It's more so like what can you make the best out of. So it's like that country for now provides you the best opportunity of making the best out of yourself. So try to avoid the negatives and try to focus on the positives in many ways. I really like the way that you're thinking, and hopefully like some of these talents also make their way back to Bangladesh. And I don't know, like, that'll be good for the country, but obviously there's we know there's a lot of obstacles to that. Hopefully it'll get fixed in the near future.
I'm not like
But very,
see, if I get around $200,000 in Bangladesh per year, and if I get some safety, security, and a couple of things along with that, I will come to Bangladesh. I will come to Bangladesh right now.
right. I mean, Yeah, I think that's a very good. I think that's a very good point because a lot of these countries experience a lot of like brain drain, where you have a lot of talent just leaving the country, and they just never come back. Not just for education, they just go and they're done. Like they settle in foreign countries, and those countries like America, like a lot of the Western countries, like such as Canada, UK, they get a lot of these talents. It's just they just keep them, even though these talents were never originated in their country. So it is the way it is, whatever. But hopefully this can change a bit more. Hopefully we can retain a lot of the talent we produce. But Barry, did you have any other questions regarding anything Dipro does?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just wanted to ask one more question, Bill, if that's okay with you. Listen, man. So first of all, man, Diplo, first of all, man, props to you, man. Listen, like the more I hear you talk, the more I see myself in you, like in the future, man. Like legit, I want to become like you, man. Like, listen, man, computer science student. Okay, fine. I missed out on right, but entrepreneur, philanthropist, online teacher, right, and you're a product manager. Like, you're just like a very much like well-rounded individual. So like I'm just so happy for you. But there is one thing that I wanted to ask you. So going back to something you stated earlier about the internships, right? I know Vilv and I, we had an episode uh like a while ago talking about some internships and stuff.
Right.
Dipro, if I'm not mistaken, I think you said you've had an internship all 3 summers so far
Yeah.
at your university. And first of all, that's just amazing, right? Uh, like people here, like for example, like at Georgia Tech, I myself included, we find it very difficult to like get these great internship opportunities. And I'm sure it's even more difficult for like other international. So I just want to hear your story. How were you able to go about that, and what advice could you share with us?
That's a very valid question, and I think a lot of people really wanted to know this from me. I think I made a small video on this as well. I think internship hunt is an art by itself. You don't have to be a 4.0 GPA holder to get it. You don't have to be someone well-rounded like me to get it. It's like an art of its own. And things work out the way it's supposed to work out. So the way this worked for me is in my first internship. Oh, I think electricity went in Atlanta. I think Bangladesh is better than Atlanta.
I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I think you just disconnected.
Hey, I'm so sorry about that, man. All of a sudden, we just experienced like heavy rainfall where I'm at, and
Yeah, that's
and
what I
all the
thought.
and all of the yeah, all the power like still like all the power is still out in our house. But yeah, Dipra, like I was just asking because like having internships like 3 times in a row, that's really impressive. And I myself um I've been having some trouble, especially this year, looking for internships, and I have a couple of friends who are also in the same boat as me. So I just want to like hear your story and some advice that you can share with us.
So yeah, we were talking about internships and how I managed to get 3 internships over the course of my time. I think a lot of it depends on how you approach it. A lot of my friends only wanted to apply to the top FANG companies, and I think that's the biggest mistake out there because getting into a FANG company is not about how good you are. It's about how lucky you are at this point, honestly, because everyone can solve a couple of data structures and algorithm questions. You don't need to be an expert to solve a simple how do you reverse a binary tree question, right? A lot of people with a little bit of practice can do that. The biggest thing is your the way you approach it. So I was pretty sure early on that I never wanted to be a small employee in a big company. Rather, I wanted to be someone big in a small company so that I can scale it and become big eventually. So the first internship that I got as a freshman in Bangladesh was a startup in Australia who gave me the opportunity because I basically uh, overpopulated my LinkedIn saying that I am a freshman, I need an internship, give me an internship, and so on. And it ended up working really well. I received 2 offers. I accepted the one which seemed the most rewarding for me. It was very little pay, but it gave me that opportunity to work with a venture-backed startup, which was great for my resume, which was great for my future life. So that was really, really well. My second internship happened as I applied to a lot of on-campus as well as off-campus internships. It was an offer by the University of Michigan College of Development, where they collect a lot of funding from different gift officers. We're talking about funding of 400 million, 500 million USD. And I really got to meet a lot of crazy people who were in the fundraising ventures, and that gave me a lot of insights on how even startups can raise funding, right? So during that time I was making like $25 an hour, and they were also paying my housing for the summer, and that was a negotiation that I did. They were not giving me that, but I told them that, hey, there are 25 interns, 24 of them live in the US. They have their houses. I am the guy who was supposed to go back to my country. Give me housing or else it wouldn't make sense. So they gave me extra, I think $2,400 for 3 months, 800 per month, for my housing, which was a crazy life savior. So after that, I realized that I do have a good portfolio for me to go a little bit bigger. So I applied to almost 100 startups in the US. And the way I founded those startup was I went to LinkedIn and I searched for number one, University of Michigan alumni who had startups, and number two, some Bangladeshi alumni around the world. A lot of Bengalis actually go here for masters and then they start their own venture later on. So I kept on knocking all of them. After like 80, 90 applications, I think I got 7, 8 interviews, and I eventually got like 3 offers. One of them was as a software developer, two of them were as product managers. I chose a position which was paying me almost $50 an hour, completely remote, and they were still in the starting stage. So I was actually their first employee. So everything made this a very great package, and I'm still working there in hide and seek as an associate product manager. And they were the ones who told me that you could join us full time anytime. They're raising a good round in March, and we're also trying to enter Y Combinator in summer. So I realized that connections are so important. Had I not cold mailed this founder, I would have never known that this position ever existed. And remember, I was almost 95% a failure because a lot of companies never even reached out to me, whereas a company was paying me $50 an hour. So it's not about it's difficult or you can make it or not. It's about if you're trying enough or not. I personally feel like if you give enough time to something, it's definitely going to work out, if not today, but tomorrow. But I had my fair share of rejections from a lot of big tech companies. I made it to the final round of Google APM after 7 interviews, and the recruiter told me that I did amazing. But as a lot of interns came back as full time, they did not have position for me left, which was sad. But that's when I realized that it was a good wake up call. I was never I never wanted this kind of a background where you had so many stages of interview to pass just so that they know that you are a good individual. And it was not even some great questions. There were very technical product questions for sure, but they were also asking me, how do you handle a conflict, right? Easy behavioral questions, which anyone can master with a little bit of practice. So I personally feel like the entire recruitment is totally rigged in the US. They asked me questions like, are you a US citizen? I said no. They asked me, are you a Latin, blah, blah, blah. I say no. So these filters automatically put me in a very small percentage of people who actually have spots in those top tech industries, which is a very bad thing. But you cannot do anything. I'm pretty sure that things go way better once you have 2, 3 years of experience and then try to apply to some top companies, if you really want to apply to top companies, that is. But I feel like Y Combinator startups are the ones which I love the most because there's more work, direct work that you can see being executed. So that was like an internship overview. I think the biggest advice that I can give people is don't underestimate the power of applying to many places, right? That's how it works. Apply to 5 places, you're gonna get one. There are some gurus in this area as well who tell you to apply to selected places and one is going to work out. That is never going to happen, at least for an international student from South Asia. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's definitely very valid advice because I personally very relate to that as well because I've experienced this with my internship hunt as well. But thank you so much for like sharing all this information for the people watching because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people, we always get on our DMs and our comments on YouTube are asking about these kind of questions. Um, I guess that was really it for my end. If Barry, if you don't have any questions, I guess we could just close this episode up.
Yeah, no, for sure. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that was all from me as well. Diplo, thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed hearing more about your background and your story, and your journey throughout all of these ventures.
I think he cut out again. Yeah, Barry's been having a very tough time. His Wi-Fi is really crap, but on top of that, is for some reason Atlanta's out of power, but Bangladesh still has power. So, guys, this is a hint: move to Bangladesh. We have power all the time. But yeah, it's. Wait, you were here? Oh, I thought you weren't listening, man. Never mind.
Hey, sorry, man. I don't know what's going on with the internet, man. I'm so sorry about this, you all. But yeah, I was just saying, Dipro, I really want to meet you one day in person, man. Hopefully, we can set that up. Best of luck to you and all of your ventures, man. And once again, thank you so much for joining us today on the Barry and Vilv podcast.
Absolutely, guys, and leave a like on the episode, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.